this video, we dive into the movie Dar. We will discuss the storyline, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and character. Additionally, we will cover the movie's production details and box of the performance. Finally, we will provide reviews and share personal reactions. So let's get started. A group of Miami cops discovers a stash of millions in cash, leading to discuss as outsiders learn about a huge Caesar, making them questions who rely on more than a gift to see Ben Affleck and Munited on screen. This is a genius stroke of casting for writer-director Peronia Le Crime trailer, The RI Will Rise, serving as high-ranking Miami cops their unit, which also consists of notable actors. Jeller, Simon Yeun, and Katina is only shaken up by the loss of Captain Jackie in the line with a film utilizing a cold. Open a choice, proven to be the right one with no choice of super flaws. Material under questioning to ascertain whatever. Or now there is a possibility this was an inside job. Playing best friends also on screen that is likely promoted by personally gifted. Typically, these tips are intended to be informed. Law enforcement team of Safe House White holding directly drug money here, believed to belong to the Colombian cattle. As such, they bring along a dog who snaps out cash, rather than the Narcity, which is Navy. If anything, the dog should be suspicious of them who starts behaving wildly. The moment before telling the skew about the job, which increasingly glows erratic, to the point where even JD has no clue he can still be trusted. Or if he is looking to pocket the exorbitant amount of cash hidden in this home that is aware of and tries to hide from Jam, while knowing what leading on from the minute Jam begins informing his name of the detail. He does not quite seem sure of what he's getting himself into, and greatly understates just how much money is his home. It is such a starting amount, crossing over into the million that concedes the recent loss of Jackie. If someone sends him to an anxiety-ridden spiral dead one of his own against him, he collects everyone's phone. Meanwhile, other characters also began behaving strangely. Gender is mysteriously caused, coming to the home-threatening violence, with this int seemingly being abandoned with whoever is around, using Prochar light to communicate in a more code light and shadow, frequently come into play for some striking photography. That unique and the united method of communication is not the only intelligent aspect here, as is the smart and tense thriller that appeared to have been designed in a lab to leverage that night personal and Hollywood friendship Ben Affleck and Matt German, testing it and forcing the artistes into an equally awkwardly suspenseful land of picking a side while watching their character. Connection unreal and loyalty is tested very tattooed across his hand, and translating to our very good guys. We are also made aware that Dan's personal life is crumbling. One also wondered if he is strictly unconditionally staring out at it to prevent him from failing to crowdside. This is not to say that is entirely unpredictable in what it is doing, but more than the information that is desperate is done, so is a skillful manner that even when it comes time for all of it to come into play in a relative context, there is blistering and palpable sweet detention. It would be a spoiler to say what pinpointing that he will comes around you. But safe to say her conversation inside an armored vehicle where the good guys and bad guys are made clear is a rose sequence that is among the best scenes of Joey Carnahan filmmaking, and more exciting than a more traditional action following it up. There are tars where the same Dajan is attempting to get as something about pay, and how little of a return is rewarded in this love enforcement areas. And while wishes that was expended upon the mystery drama and white necklace suffice dogs, you see our complex communication. A logro means go away. The wingtail means let's go walk east, and a yellow police house. That means there are millions of dollars of dirty cash inside. Right for the taking? Of course it does. Have you not seen the ripe ones? The state of Florida looks exactly and appropriately like a gun pointed at Obama. The Miami Police Department has a corruption issue to rival FIFA Executions Committee. Matt German and Ben Affleck have the chemistry of a married couple during an argument, angry, intimate, intense. But wasn't it fun? I like it if I did it. But did you follow the story, or do you have questions? Well, if we delight, we have an answer. German and Affleck play baseball and serve in Miami. Tactical gym. Affleck is a maverick. He uses the C word in America. A punch-first-lighter kind of guy. Diamond is more sensible, thinking before throwing fist at the end of a long shift. Diamond gets a stash house. They entered him. Arrived to find Jenny $20 million in a bucket hidden in a wall. That's when the operation gets sticky and made suspicion that there is a corrupt cop in their unit, and soon that chin blue line between cause and robbers began to wobble as the man's character left in John in the trailer from the outside looking in. It seems simple, seize the gas, count it and turn it in on the inside, it's difficult. Diamond hard, bitter, jetted glitter of the unit, living in the shadow of grief since the date of his son from cancer. Detective C&J Baron Ben Affleck, sick smoking Maury Cobb, and J. Dummer Spall was having an affair with Jackie before her murder. Detective micro members of the team who appear at first to have doubted about my intention with the gas. Or just as doomers wanted him to think of a fasting voice cracking Jame number whose loyalty to the car never seem in doubt, Detective Lolos Leeser. The other female team members are Hispanic virtue daughters who complain about the tough life of a corp and a constant temptation to escape from the job. Desi Sasha sells the young columns woman left by the gel to guard this dash house. A member of the TNT team who is a secret investigation sparked the story. She managed to send a crucial tip to dummy assignment in the opening scene. There were the two marksmen who shocked Jackie in the opening scene, and he once planning to steal the money and flee to Mexico. The corrupt cop connection is murderly during after-work beer before the tip-off comes in. The team discussed a recent SP of stash horse by band coppers looking to get rich quick. It's Carter scarcely getting knocked over by cops. And fries. Money disappear, explained Ben Affleck's character before dismissing. It has made KMR an urban fantasy. Jammer suspected something was off from the moment. He got a tip about it, a house. He had already considered that one of his team might try to take the money for themselves. That's why he fed his team member a different figure for his bin, was told $300K Numa, $250K Lolo for $75K, and $150K. Nobody knew the actual total was $20 million. Wendy Gaylor, assuming they had not shed open the bikers, who discovered a true mount, said no one want to die over $150 million jammers, know exactly who had lead. Naturally assumed it was, and among Jor was in the guard, and that gave him away. That's why Jimmer shows, despite in lesser accord with the total sum. Return on the softly complete account. He tells them now to say it out loud because that member numbers. Because the control later, when senior officers arrive, everyone independently reports a figure they were shown. If the numbers match the chain of custody, hold if they don't. Someone's been scheming in a world the system is designed to make corruption collective. You can steal, but only if everyone agrees to steal the same amount. And remember, partly because he got out of the art alive, sure. But there's another reason. As part of the informant code of Miami, Caesar in the state of Florida can claim up to 20%. Zoomors explained this is what she was up to be whole time. A girl can get rich stitching of fossil Florida. Zoomers tells her the inference is that she had already signed up with a year to inform on a culture she was guarding money for. That's why Zoomers and Byron find her far to be redacted in a system she signed up snitch at the end. She is seen hugging the FBI agent because they have just told her she's made a cool $4 million for her trouble. This is all part of moving sub-narrative to humanize Mage's character. Early on, we see he has on his left hand and his right. Later, this is asked what it means. Are we the good guys? She asked. After last thing my son said to me, he replies, on the other hand, we are and always will be. Now how? She asked. Cancer. He says he was 10 years old, Jack. Disappeared to be drawn from real life. Eagle-eyed viewer will have noticed the dedication that appeared as a movie future to black in loving memory of Jack Cassaniano. Teyana Films' hand consultant was a member of the real-life Miami dad inspired the story. His own son, Jackie, died of cancer in 2021. Jay is an intense nuke action thriller that reunite longtime friends and culpritures Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Jay and Netflix's police-fueled story come from dated character Joy Carahan, who has flex his Michael in the genre before with other notable film including End Smokiness and Gutler's Cop Shop Beyond and Affleck. The causes are skimp on SAR, as they are joined by the China trailer-style Candle features a twisty narrative in which are questioned as a simple job, done into a potentially daily nightmare. Pingar studies cast of Kopang, an unknown enemy in a catastrophic fight, never knowing who can be trusted, including the person standing right next to them, with $20 million only line. Kahan's greedy police trailer, we have questioning who is corrupt and who are the good cops, right out to the very end, luckily. The Royals spared the good from the bad, but who was behind it all in the end? The opening scene of the RI shows artistices, the violent slaying of Captain Jackie Will, who is the head of the police. DJ Hardem is being questioned in the aftermath of the merger, where viewers are introduced to the character they will be, with audio movie plays left and Jan Dummer the leader after Yazdad and Affleck plays. Detective Sergeant J.D. Barron, who is revealed as having a romantic relationship with Valis. The team is rounded out by Detective Mike Crow, Detective Newman Deeps, and Detective Lowe. The team want to answer to their captain that can't investigate due to the conflict of interest. There are also rumors revealing about a group of cops stealing money from crime scene. Still, it's treated, most sides are met within the team and among their fellow law enforcement colleague, including Dem Agent M.O., their superior measure Checho and GDs. Brother Absian with everyone introduced, Jom tell the team they have a trip setting, things in motion. It's left any TNT is looking to go home, but Jom presses them to follow up on a tip from the Crime Stoppers land about a possible money. Caesar arrive, which is police lang, for taking a criminal in a stop or instance of the movie, a cash scar as they leave. Jer insists that each take their own vehicle and that it will be quick. However, he suspiciously tells each team member a different amount to expect from the Caesar. Upon arrival, they need the person living in the home. Grussie, who led them to Jew, to rebite the fie on their part, telling her they were looking for a drug when money was a real target. The police are quickly sniff out something, and the team finds bucket of cash snatched behind a wall within initially small, some no estimate at $20 million Pew assert, immediately add much fewer to what is happening. Roy seen with a seeker phone he uses to help preserve when he began to believe Jor is looking to steal the money to a few trans moment. A call is made to the home, letting them know danger is imminent as people are on, however. But despite the people shooting at the house being as the drug cartel wanting its money, Jor into a member of the gang, revealing it was not them. The new revelation from the Carter come with the information-clearing demo of murder, but pointy finger at an unknown cop on her team, with the cartel considering the money lost as a price of doing business. The team is left to find of heavily armed people who want the cash, with their own member potentially hiding the most significant threat. Diamond's humor appeared to be help planning to steal the money with the help of SL and website while trickily attempt to get back. When the team began to fight among themselves just as Thing Arrow a fire break out, forcing them to be grab the money and get outside as Maddie shows up with an armored vehicle and a present right to safety with humors. Daddy and Mighty all singing around your money in the back of the armored transport. The Chora crime thriller come to head. Artistries are revealed. Jimmer clues viewer in the way he gave each damn member a different amount of money when they were living, proving to be a clever way to figure out who owned the team was dirty. Thanks to his reception, the Arrive reveals that Dee was not trying to get back up from a vision, like the movie presented. Roe was actually reaching automatic as a part of the group of dirty law enforcement officer who criminal statuses, which was referenced at the beginning. Roe took shorts as well, made a movie showing the M delivered the final bullet that killed her as he was onto them, and they needed to keep her quiet before the last bullet. Well sent a message to Jumor, giving him to the address where they find all the money. Sales humors could not investigate Wells' murder. He used Arrive as a way to shake up the team, sing out of him. Even Affleck's JD wasn't aware of Do More, as his suspicion were genuine. Very ending revealing that he was only told when the threat was there. All the information that come to light is the vehicle wrapped into violence with guns going off and Chud's FBI brother showing up to help. 2 men action prior chair sequences. Jumar puts Throw in handcuff and Jedi shoots and kills Marty after his vehicle crashes. The closing moment shows the rest of the team being proven to be trustworthy. Cop says the money is properly delivered into evidence and as he is given a cash reward for all trouble. The rape is a full out and could even warrant a reverse video revelation. D-Boss has been a big hit on Netflix's regarding the biggest debut since Happy Glamour to last year with the 41.66 million views, does potentially allow the people who found themselves lost among the various faces of the new movie. Ben Affleck and Merman are reunited on screen again in Netflix's intense crime thriller. The sees them play to Miami cops was rust in each other and their teammate begin to fray when they discover million in cash in situ. But as everything is obvious suggests him, and what does the murder of Captain Jackie Wells have to do with it all? Jackie got wind of a masked house in Helia, Florida, thanks to her informee, who inherited a house from her grandmother and intended to use the house as bear to draw Audi coughs. Mike and Mary killed her before she could do so, but not before she sent a dip on this house to him. For most of the arrive, it looked like dance and trying to steal the cash totaling more than $20 million for himself and his gym. However, it was all actually a player to root out a craft detective on the gym, which was Mike. When he brings together his team for the red, he does each one of them a different amount that he was told was in the slash house. After they arrive, discovered money, a trade comes in that no one and need to die. Our 150K was done, and told Mike, confirming to him that Mike was a crowd detective on him. They don't know who was working with it off until Maddie shows up with the intention of transporting the money to a DEA health bank. When their own interview J and any suspicion falls on M and is confirmed when Mike radio the last number on his burner phone, which connected M little. Does Marty know that JD had already called his mother in the FBFA after Danny finally revealed his plan to JD earlier? Maddie and Mike attempted to escape, but JD catches Joel Maddie and kills him in revenge for Jackie, who he was in the relationship with, then catches up with the Mike and gives up allowing them to arrest him. It revealed that idea was never actually any money manny in the bags, only deal van, just yellow pages from the stash house. The actual $20 million never left the house and is now safely in the trend of the air, who confirmed the amount to remove any suspicious from JD Jan and the rest of the gym. After all the drama, it's a happy ending all around, as Desi gets a 20% cutout stash house money, since she was the informant he called him, while Jay and Jan was the sunrise on a beach, and removing memorial hand on this shield to Jackie, having managed to get justice for her before its end credit. The rap face debuted to Jack Williams, Castano, who proved to the tragic inspiration for the movie, Grace Cassiano, who stars in the movie as the anti-detective AI Parad, lost his son Jack at the age of just 11-year-old in 2021. Dyer actor Joey Carnahan revealed he got his friend permission to use the laws of his son with a movie having losing his son to cancer. It's tricky because you go to your friend and say, I don't want this to feel exploitive or ship, and I don't want to take advantage of the memory of your boy, he explained. Instead, I asked, can we create a vessel with which to put his grip and sadness into? The maybe turn it into something where is living among man to Jack for his short time here on Earth. Matt German and Ben Fleck have teamed up for an emotional drama, Good Will Hunting. A 14th century Perpio, a drupty about Snaker, and many more projects they had produced and acted in together. Now they are taking on a crime thriller in the arrived German and Affleck play detective, who, along with a few other members of the team, find $20 million stashed in a house, and while there are differences to a drug cartel, the battle in the rope is between a police officer and whether they can trust one another, vent carriers, and a potentially huge players in line. The movie involves comes twisties, so if you want to make sure you followed along with what was really going on, keep watching, and if you have not watched the wrap yet, but it's available on Netflix's now, and 2, there are spoilers ahead. Dan J. Mayer tell his team they have been sent a crimes operative about criminal storing money at a stash house, and they have to go and investigate at the house. They tell the human living there that they are going to be million cash. This led to a bunch of questioning of DIY, who is knowing anything, and says it was her late grandmother's house. She eventually admit their drug trafficker convince her to be politically let him damn to use the house while she leaves for her errand. While this is going on, the team of detectives are also mourning the loss of the Captain Jackie, who was recently killed on the job by unknown culprit. Jackie was in a relationship with J.J. Byron, then second in command. As investigation into the house and cash is going down, Dennis started acting very bad. He tells cash member each members of the gym a different amount of money was reported to be in the house in the Crime Stopper. He's very eager to get into the house. Even it is mean lying to Desi about the reason they are searching it. Netflix's latest Savvy Hitler has quickly climbed to the top of the global chart. Fuel body and deniable chemistry of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. The acted by Joey Corn film operate like a pressure cooker, trapping a tactical team inside a suburb Miami house with $20 million in Carter cash, while the premise cop finding more money than she can handle. Feels like a classic general drop. The execution is just clinical. Look at institution, not the cannibalism of the badge. Joey Kahan has always specialized in high velocity. Hyper cinema, anti-rape is no exception. The film avoids the glossy, sterilized look of many streaming original offering instead for a greedy handheld aesthetic that mirror the frags of his protagonist. Joy Carnahan has always specialized in the high velocity, hyper cinema, and is no exception. The film awards the gloss sees the relaxed look of many streaming original optic instead for a greedy handheld aesthetic that mirrored the fringing of his protagonist. The decay of real-world friendship translate into a presence that she lived in. They don't need long monologue to establish trust. A look or a scaristic job does the work. When the team enters a house in the Miami Protocol, the requirement to count large sums of cash on Psy becomes brilliant native twice to keep everyone trapped. Interestingly, M. Demons recently noted in an interview that a streaming platform often requests simpler dialogue for multitasking viewer. At time, the film first introed over explaining plot point that were already clear are movie's micular thriller, that valuation over mindless explosion. The central questions driving the film's final act is the identity of the killer of Captain Jackie Well, that it was over just the routine Caesar. It was a complex thing, operation designed by Jackie before her death, as left in Jan Jamer, and J.D. eventually realized that $20 million in the attic was bad. Jackie knew there was a hem of corrupt officer led by DEA agent Martin and D&D's own micro who are hating cartel STs. In the climax is revealed that rumored horses stealing Germany. He was luring the traders. He swapped the real cash for sex of old phone book. How harried by the horse's honor, they see grandmothers, while Lemro and Mix were escaping with the Lord. Daniel $20.6 million was already being secured by the FBI. The film ends on a bittersweet note. Mike is arrested. Maddie is killed in a car race and team watches the sunrise, a symbol of the one more mentality Jackie lived by. If you stay for the credit, you saw education in Loving Me of Jack William Casino. This is not just the name is a soul of the film. The IP is loosely based on the life of Chris Casino, a real Me officer and friend of Joey Carnahan. In 2016, Kino's team actually discovered $24 million hidden in orange bucket behind a wall in Miami's home. Hardy characters of Jan Jamer was deleted after Casino's real-life son. Jack passed away from cancer at age 11 in 2021. That was on Jamer's hands and his grief over a loss, a direct trio's personal tragedy, elevating the movie from a standard he flick to a deeply personal medication on loss in law enforcement. Parliament's RF is a tactical seizure of contraband or currency. Unlike a long-term investigation, RIP is a fast, aggressive strike. The little highlighters like nature of these operation when $20 million is on the table. The temptations to rip the money for oneself becomes the ultimate purity task, released at January 16th, 2126 Netflix Global. The actor Johan Garnon lead, cause Matt Damon, Matt Dammons, and Van Affleck are serving protecting and maybe stealing drug money in the rap. The new Netflix action movie that began steaming, written directed by Joey Carnahan, that it goes by German and Affleck as do Miami Cop, grieving the recent murder of the police captain. But when Jim, the latest films from Ben Affleck and M's production company, is a crime written and directed by the AM Joe Carnahan, as well as producing old friends Affleck and German board star in the movie as high-ranking police officer in Miami's tactical narcotics team. Dar follows the ent, but far from finding drug. The team discovers a huge pile of hard gas. However, all is not as it seemed. With member of the TNT came to steal the money for themselves, and an unclear level of curtain involvement are battling in the suburbs surrounding the stash house in Juices. At the center of the film is a murder of Jackieville, a TNT captain who gave the D on the house in the first place. This is the main event of the plot in motion, as entire setup of the stash house is a will to be bad to discover which police officer had been stealing from house bust. The two main crops in the movie are left, and John Grimers and his closest L.A. on the floor's detective surgeon, J.B. Byron, who was in relationship with Jackie until her murder. When discovered, a Desi, who they find in the stash house with card and money, is not just a guard during ride in the back of an armored vehicle, where then J.D. Detective Mike Rowe and DEA Agent Hell Matrix are apparently transporting the million to a DEA bank. It is revealed that Mike had a secret murder phone which had been used to contact Marty. Days to repair the pair. Two wanted to steal the cash, then had worked his card because he had Scar secretly given a different total value, or the money to each member of the team. Any number he had told Mike was the same one that was later mentioned by the mysterious guard who joined the Matty. With his information, it is then confirmed that Matty with Mike on his side was also the agent who killed Jackie with pretty much her last act. She has sent him to take a body money in the house before she was killed with Mike, and Matty murdering her to keep her quiet so they could continue with their plan of carrying out the haste. The final twist is that none of the $20 million was ever on board the DEA van. All the money had remained at the house. Anytime Merman and Ben Affleck get together to make a movie, it's an event. The last outing was 2023's Affleck-directed Air, a body guys at Nike, who created the Air Jordan. Now you're back in a totally different reducer, staring in Nar, the latest method action thriller from director Joey Carnahan. Those whose eyebrows immediately perk up at that combination of words will be happy to know the film delivers in exactly the ways they are hoped, and in some surprising ways too. In Drip Chairman and Affleck play a pair of vice cop in Miami who lead the team on regular aid of local stash horses after losing their left hand in a mysterious assassination. Diamonds then step into the job, and then an environment of suspicion about police corruption and aforementioned murder. Then gets a tip for money bus and shy address in question, where they discover a lot more money said expected already doing the bus in secret, then takes his what infuses in doubt and entertaining thriller of distrust, sometimes feeling almost like Johan Carpenter, that thing in which Bond F among the group as they begin to question each. Here we seen establishing Dan's close relationship with Affleck's detective surgeon J.D. by Chano to have been an effective setup for the dynamic to come. The au pair will be best friend, but didn't get a job. On top of that, J.D. had been in a relationship with Jackie, their murdered left. J.D. too is a one less willing to appear authority, leading to a particular air of suspension hanging over him in department. It's our great job to play everyone. The nests are kicking strangely during the bust. To go any further would be to spoil the movie. Many fun twist and turn what's clever about the film. To me is a way appear to be aesthetically in conversation with this gender. These are cops on red, wearing glute frost, deck road, with gun using swear dact, in other words. So characters talk to each other like capital man with just above dot, picking at all time. It has exactly the kind of playerable, bro, why someone want to eat for movie that were ordinary star Garner Butler best possible because even thought it doesn't fees. Edkin everything else about is elevated, including the cast. There is Damon and Affleck, of course, but also Steon, Sasha Kelly, and Candler. The interplay of good writing, smart directing, and great actor to carry out of is also an affected selection from the fact that this action thriller is pretty light on action. In general, The Rape is a respectively low-budget affair with much of the action taking place inside one house that could have gotten tiresome. But being able to trace the movie on the shoulders of actors sporting goofy dialogue at each other is a privilege of working at this high level. Those scene work, they work because there's logical within the flow of the film at a subject level. They work because they do actually build, and are their perception of character too out of film. And they work because the actor are good and can pull it off. Of course, having Damon and Affleck together is a whole other layer of special sauce. They are each great movies in their own right, but together they are a story. The lifelong friendship from the Good Will Hunting Oscar Jordan massive success, it's all packed into repairing, and any scene between the two of them is always immediately electric. That always been true, and it's true in The Rap, which you could probably watch on mute and still perfectly comprehended. When German and Affleck are acting opposite each other despite seeming kind of silly as a pair of Marine-like Miami cops. They sell the characters, and their dynamic at number point is a depth of their friendship in question because you see it in their body language. Ventra seemed to be broken. It has weird because the story of that friendship exists in even writing and directing, can't what it all adds up to. Us perfect piece of block entertainment, low enough only brain power matter, but without insulting. The Odyssey's intelligence know what kind of movie the people who find it to hit. Player on Netflix's are looking for moment to moment. It's always entertaining with just enough suspense and just enough humor. Throw in some great actor Matt and Benz and some solid directing, and you have got a movie going. I can hardly think of higher praise for a film. Like the of that is as soon as it ended, I turned to my friend and said, I hope to make more of this. Matt German and the Ben Affleck have found the perfect vehicle for a second timing, with director-writer for a security timing with director Joey Carnahan. Dar a fresh and smart entry into the overwhelmed crop drama. Jenner Carnahan certainly knows his way. Our own police action thriller set in Florida, but this one is clever enough to brand new life into the well-worn scenario we have seen play out in countless movie and TV shows. This one already enough feels like Germany has long been a B-movie prophet, for those exhausted by percentage award bit amass. Statham are suddenly commanding a wide release and offer #1 minute hit. But as the former apocalyptic sequel, Greenland Migration, lingers in the top 5, and the latest action, Rom Shelter, prepared to premiere. Here we find you more point star Oscar winner Ben Affleck and Matt Herman. Resigned to this small screen instead in a nonza film, like the rap-flashing action heavy, led by 2 household names, should be available this weekend on the biggest hype for mates, again across the country. But then in that same world at this particular time, is doubtful that a film like this would even get granted a budget that reportedly close to $100 million, highly unusual for outrated non-nip. The streamer was, in fact, so cannon curtain made that it has briefly agreed to change its pace. You're allowing a flag and dement to bring across a profit-sharing artist equality rule. Babish member of the cast and trio gets a bonus if the film perform well. So, as with many films at this wide moment, it's a take-what-you-can-get situation, and while it would have been preferable to see a film like this, which looks and feels like it was made in 2002 on the big screen, the landscape was dedicated that small will have to do, is made by Joey Carnan, a writer-director who broke out in that same year with Creme Filler, a film that was saved from direct-to-video ignominy by Tom Close, who bought it as excess producer. Since then, Carnahan has continued to attract other Hollywood action junkies such as Lam Nisgar, Butlers, Mel Gibson, and Affleck, whom he first worked with on 2006 added annoying cap-smoking essay film In the Gring, and surprisingly pont survival thriller about men at the end of the world facing the end of their lives. But he has proven himself to be mostly solid general land. The system has not found a place for him in the last 5 years. Hands up if you have seen Kerry Washingtoning Yeun or project developed with TV writer Michael's MC Grill is a comfortable fit. The kind of film he would have been making back in his idea as the Netflix Lost Every Sectional 2019's Triple Four. It's a S-forward throwback to the tactical movie of yesterday, and as with the film, it has concern a fight over a considerable boundary. A film called Led by Kevin Sam, Flashback 2017, Jobre Paranormal Police flop. But a frame means something, thankfully R.A. different, and more of the real physical word, inspired by L.J. True, event. It referred to be smold. He had tripled out to be group of Miami officer, led by Jan and a flex they sent Hope, on a seemingly normal CERN and led by an acceptable money of knifing dog fund, more than $20 million hidden in this actic. The team, which also include Oscar Triple, Diana Scher, and Oscar nominees Cav and Kat Sancho Moore, just safely transport who can be trusted with a rope like this. There's plenty of talk about it. Checking or robbing the RI with no actor is quite able to be normalized, and as talented as Damon and Affleck might be. Somehow here, more Borix also ring a little file at this stage of other career, but it's other take on role that would usually mislead by the Butlers and Statham, as of truffle oil on a greasy rote cyber bear that is their obvious long-term chemistry. But there are also serious dramatic actors who are able to bring some humanity to note and to return magic, tragic backstories. There's a little else for the other actor to riel as a young woman living in the house. Carnahan working with a bard. He hasn't been this close. Warfor is a brash cockahur, an entirely unacceptable character. Roisin Simpson, Becky Senma. And while it might not look quite as expensive as it actually is, One imaginative demon like purrs were considerable. The film has a forceful swagger to it. Is that to be the critical? About a mod thriller that star belongs Madam and Ben Affleck in their first movie together since they launched their own production artist with the release of Air nearly 3 years ago. After all, it's exactly the type of film that German and Affleck felt there was a steel market for mid-budget, high-floor, low-ceiling drama that are not based on any existing IP or part of an expanding cinematic universe. You have here a 4-quadrant movie, while Jerry P is a 1-quarter movie. This is a film designed exclusively. Firefox will like watching again, male movie star LD of shoot guns and solve crimes. It's Movie Die, Target Laser Precision Film Boss, who purchased with Departed, and John in multiple format, and German and a play, to Miami Jan Jamer and Dad, who work on a Sautry force labeled TNG Practical Neurotics Team that RA sources when a member of their team frantically takes them a lot trip right before getting gunned down by a mask, as a scare finds themselves riding a suspected drug that has $20 million in cash hidden away in barrels behind a fast wall while in the attic. The only person in the house, a young woman named Dassey, claims he know nothing about it. The 5% Sautry force, which is addition to German and Affleck, is built out by the Salmon, Catalina Sanino, and Jana Jer is immediately overcome Vaffier and Borona, as I began wondering both who might be coming for the money and of the team. Member might decide to seize the load for themselves. Humor's not wanting to phone in, the fine rescue does not exactly is. By confidence among the top and shady local cop are patrolling the street out front, and then a threatening phone call comes in. You have got 30 minutes to get out of that house. From that point, that I believe several different action movie tropes and scenario. It's a legal movie, maybe it's a H movie, has a plot, dutifully, and jungle itself via a series out, and join that you often feel mandated, titled, and inspired some lip services to character adapt, but really both diamond and ears playing stock. Tough guy characters that likely did not require much prep, aside from growing a grizzle beard that said there is a reason these guys are still movie stars, nearly 3 decades after Good Will Hunting, and there's immediately some fun to be had in watching them step in, shows that feel more grounded than the outside bigs. Again, character they have often been ticked to play. The sporting cast is also worth paying attention to as is. Far more interesting than what we typically get from a genuine Netflix release. Ion is always reliable and is still first film, since scaring and winning a gent glow for one battle, after which, boo, her career last caller, is also around as a Dacian, keeping tabs on that situation. And why can I have to cast action star? What he does have is gunfire as a film's biggest action set, or all body hook show out that Kahan shows like a. The story itself is also standard in SEO issue, offering out a pre-squired number of double crosses, fake out, and plot explain in flashback until everyone's new motive is revealed and his surprise villain or villain can be held accountable, that if his closest cousin might honestly be the FX cop, Show the Shield, which was also about a highly specialized tri-game that was not exactly on a level and often found himself struck in session, spiraling out of control. The Shield was not afraid to get dropped off, while Jay feels like it need to play it safe enough to accommodated movie star lead Kahan, whom wrote his script and shares a story credit, but there's a feeling of authenticity. I am not a Miami cop, so it could be Foxy Entity, as I know. but the characters in the Joe speak as a chainway and carry themselves in a manner that to lie the story, and services of Lightly would not spot a 2+ hour film, but thankfully the wrap destroyed at hour and 45 minutes mark. So a sense of Schuss exceptional expectations gains this Kyo job. The trailer, which was inspired by event, but feels very much like a project of the movies. Frankly, we read our first act this exciting hook here when Miami cop Jackie will gain gold. Blood is in showway. So harsh unit that TNT Tactical Narcotics Team, new boss, and giving for left and dumber. Once emerges Satan main detective Sergeant. J.D. Baron Affleck was River's lover, and keep her gun as the ultimate tribute the rest of the team played by Salmon Tandler and Kini Ina Standino. Close rank as the FBI headed by Scott Arkin as Byron's younger brother start its interrogation. This may sound like an almighty of informed damn, but they so well written and performed plays lie out like very high-stake drama thing, and save off the team, head to a drug cartel safe house where they find a young woman they see Sosha with $20 million stash shed in the attic. The questions the film pled on is what should they do next? The cartel is coming to kill everyone. They don't trust his superior with the cash and assuming not. It would be so much easier if the Wish stole his money. For those unaware of Miami PD wine, dang for do exactly that. But with the sad for all exerting assert on 163 update. Kahan dropped the bell just as the tension should be ramping up. It began to disparate with the characters wandering off alone, making a stupid decision and concealing so many secrets. It has their motivations, lets alone stay emotionally involved, that about lying says humor, it becomes real hard to keep. Does them land a trade? The film has the same problem. It's great to see German and Affleck going it ad after all these, with a former turn and broading and a latch showing yet again that he excel is, bringing share to scandalry law. Thusing the gas is first, they're particularly Girl in Virtue, who would have been a twinkle's part that title of Kohan. Diode blood cars, the bullet and Octon seem to have informed the rest of his career, but his sims are actually more interesting when they focus on moral dilemmas, as in the unrated narc tattoo Doomer has on his hand. All in all, it's quite right. Yet more things it tries to do, with less, well, it does them. As an Adise Friday night action flick, it ticks all the right boxes, but it also feels like less than the sum of immediately impressive bar, Oscar-winning screen, and Netflix producer Job Boys are back in John India, Rap Joy, Carnahan, gloomy Netflix's grand thriller that reunite everyone's favorite Hollywood German and Affleck break into Judd together, and started with the Goodwill Hunting. Before going off in mostly separate direction, they recently reunited for righties, called Excellent, under a D-Low, but the film capture characters apart. For the majority of the piece, Contrast is being sold as a big diamond-leggy union. We have been waiting for what could be better than watching those two guys being unfortunately while there's some fun here, and the Reflo is particularly amusing playing. I'll change smoking world class a hole that I hasn't unfortunately been there, then that quilt to it. We have seen this type of co-op before and done better. Maybe if Carnahan, who also panned it, neither did more laboratory to the proceedings would function better. Instead, everyone is so miserable, so bit, that it become a bad go to watch. That's not to say Darif needed to be a VI come after promoting a few Believe movies to his name. His breakout nar is unrelenting in his misery, and I am a big fan of his. The Greya Hunting meditation on that, that was unfortunately marketed action movie. But while Kahan found the right balance to set, with those films, he doesn't seem able to nail down to rape, set in surprisingly dark and rainy Miami. The producers, a solid Tanchi unit of the police force, a group of no-sense, rough-and-tumble shooter who take on Big Sore and Bows, even bigger. Clear Nest Number finds themselves in a bite of glasses. Their leader Jackie is murdered in the opening scene of the film. This opened the door for the Moros left, and Dummer Jamu become the new boss. Something that seemed to sit perfectly fine with his portive team, consisting of Detective Sergeant Detective Micro, Detective Norma Babside, One Battle After Enterer, and Detective Lolo Slazer. The cast assembled here is unquestionably talented by all appear in the material. The building blocks are here for Carnahan to create a fun team dynamic, but we learn almost nothing about this character save for Alex J., who is longtime buddy of Jan. Dam's main character does not for much better. We are sure he is grieving the death of his son and running in medical draft, but that's about as much of inform as the film is willing to dish out. To be fair, Carnahan is playing things very close with the chess because he is God Moises and Chaffee Live. Maju are bound to see them coming. As his sun began to set, the team is ready to clock out for the day until Dan tells them about a tea involving a sash. They roll out and end up in a eerily quite culty as knowing on knocking on the door of a house inhabited by Desi, who is quite good here playing a character god in the middle of the mayhem. The young woman explained a house once belonged to her. Noed got a grandmother and she tied up in a pro-ate court trying to make the place her own. The cops act friendly and just to Desi. Eventually, an alarming amount of money is discovered stashed away in the attic. Desi claims he has no knowledge of it, but she also tells the cops that he should take away what he wants, and even ominous Nope Animus' phone call to the house also offers a warning. If the cops don't get out of there soon, they are going to die. The sages set off for plenty of moral gray drama. Will this turn dirt jai and e-pocket gas, or is something else going on here? Dan began acting strange, and JD notices this pretty quickly, leading the two friends to beat at each other's throat. From here, I assumed Carnahan was going to take it a search on Prince 13 style approach, with our C from Criminal trying to bask into their location, but Valdi Rees pretty much rotate to that. Most of the film time is devoted to watching the creators stand around with sore look on their faces and making a Benton use of the F word. There are words of fraction from Chandaram, but a failed tutorial not. Helping matter is a look of the film. The rap does give us a handful of scene where German and Alex Gier blow out, but these are brief flashes of light in a sea of darkness. I am all of dark and greedy gram drama, but Rob never feels like much of a movie, more like a pilot for a new, particularly violent Law and Water. Spine off many films, Geners have a variety of storytelling tools available to keep the pressure not only characters, but also onlys. One of the trickiest tools to use in deploy traces, because it relies on the board saint of the reveal and the step taken to set it up. A twist that feels like it came out of nowhere can work, but examining a good story will show how the creature fed us right in our information to get us cozy enough to be shocked. And then sometime that wisp does not see the landing. Sometimes it swamps execution so badly that the royalty in Hari, it's hard to come back from that building a billion-dollar empire out of his heroic, no more delay, a spool in X-Men origin. Wolfine is a flock that speak to be character the definition to the rebuild his character, but usually the movie is a question, becomes a cautionary tale. These are 10 of the worst plot twists in the modern movies. We reveal so stinky that you to love the rest of the movie. But don't ever feel judged if you still love. And one of these bad surprises. Movies are for everyone, and we all have our secret garbage favorite spoiler. Some fans argue that the first half of the Hancock receives Will Smith as a statular Eamon hero is still pretty good. We are not here to say they are wrong, but at least into the second half is Origin that is hard to bring his thing to movie night. Hancock's homeless superhuman would have fit in the way the boys, but unfortunately he's just a lone market, or he's here after he accidentally befriends a PR guy and get to meet his family. The movie takes a turn 40 garbage disposal. The PR guy wife Mary is actually another superpowered immortal, as we sit numb from our luck of shock and jewel by her exposition as some higher damned backstory. We soon take the second blow. Mary is actually Hancock's cellmate. She left him years ago when he first became an maniac. This leaves us with an unsolvable paradox. On the one hand, good for Mary as Hancock's Larry Ajark. On the other, the aesthetics of partners leaving a relationship. The second the other girls take are depressing. Put together, Hancock is a tough-class movie balance on a failure of a twist that detract from an RG exploration of a showy superhero. Thanks. Goodness actor Pat B still thinks a Hancock sequel is a long way off. A nut gif is building with 3-body rich atmosphere life for going style twist. And John he escalic like the Six Lands. But by the time The Village came out, there were questions on whether he could consently keep his stick up. The answer is, for the most part, yeah, not really. The Village has a lot going for it with an excellent cast that includes waiver Gene Phonics and William Hart, Brass, Hovashind in early performances that cast her as A.N. Village sent on a frightening mission for the medical supplies needed to save a life. Yet that movie hangs on, that this village is an of regret. Post 9/11 the old days were better, and suffer dystopia as Autotopia is wonky enough to turn the flake into a granted way to start a fight at your mentally flame film cult. It's a movie that can still be enjoyed, fire cinematography and his costuming, but difficult to defend, but it goes with it, plot. Make a movie with at least a half-dozen plot twists boiled on the top of each other, an Ocean 11 plot with displaced magician. Throw in a Vey theory aboard ancient Egypt. Jesu annoyed the spirit of Umbo, who did all of this better in the Panoleum and still had time to drag the drone before he died. Then give the lovable Mark Rufio the worst geek of the career. Congratulations, you made a terrible movie that still somehow got a sequel. No wonder this country is in trouble. One key is making a creative twist and is to ensure that her behavior is consistent with their character as an agent named Jan Rode, who, seeing these regular street magician for big reasons of his own, is not consistent. There are scenes of him alone where his behavior does not match who he is in at the end of the movie. He is not performing for anyone, which is a cheating no, and offer no foreshadowing for his actual motive. So for him to abruptly reveals himself as the actual mastermind behind everything is a bad story. We were never given a chance to pick through the glue. De-illusion of his movie is acting like it was giving it mystery to play with Boo. Modern James Bond actor Daniel Craig will happily be the first to tell you that the franchise is not hired. It may even be a surprise to suggest it's of a formal hire not prank than a comic book series. Especially when one of Departed Bond stories is in fact a comic book series. That's sad. It's no fun to see a twisted on the level of a really bad 90s superhero comic in Fi-Crack era. Born movie war, it involved with award-winning Ingorgeous. Base's star Christoph was doing his best with the war carnation of Nest before Dead Spectre. Not only some pretty solid modern-born movie into chess pieces for the newly revealed organization Spectre, but the Showhorn be back into continue after a writing show had forced this previous movie to create fresh out and a motivation without him. Although original plan had Raoul Lair and revealing himself as a main villain of Spectre Things I Know Differently, once again Blowfly's version of somehow returned and revealed that he raised, alongside and orphaned and adopted James as a brother, is actually Spectre Informers, later with the grad vendor's long ago pronouncement of the pedalism. It's more like in the train post Thanksgiving abort. There is a plenty to argue about regarding Night Superhero Trilogy Unbreakable. It remains a standout, sometime too dark and pointurious, but in the video, with a genuine love for the art of coming and a good wisdom on James MCO with phenomenal performances, but Glass, which attempt to use Jackson's supervillain as his narrative drugs. A late game revealed that there is a secret superhum last attempt to take them on its more nice anti-hero, but is also trying to bring the tactic that we can sign into play as a movie reaches its climax. Are these superheroes really all that working class? Hero David Dunn Bruce Willis leaves us with his unwanted questions as one of America overpaid and overarmed. Militant cops causes him to drone in battle as his only weakness. But we are not violence ever virtue, superhero, or are we? By the end of the Glass, nobody know what it all means anymore. We won't lie. We would still line up for any movie in this universe. Taking about a Harry Potter property these days is an unwanted manfield. From J.K. Rowling's bullying of trans people, an issue-building upcoming Max series report to the Mar issue surrounding stars Yeun D and Ezra Miller. It's just one more fortune to crack that fantastic beast. The franchises went sideways in a second outing. New Scavenger had a nice thing going in the first room where his job was to find, well, fantastic beers. Figure out there's obviously more interesting work out here. Thanks a lot, and the franchise then showed the major and a pre-watch mode. Villain Green went into the mix. The Crimes of the Grand World brings Granweld, whose slightly less serious twist overburdened the previous film, into the foreground, while apparently joining the jumbled door into the answer to the Skywalker clan. Is Romular previously introduced as a troublesome vid with a swad dangerous bug, go through some sort of badly nerded transformation from some Jude to remember out in magic supermasses, clan somehow being Elvis. The explanation is to nickel summarize and offer in, say, a flashback that insult the legacy of Fresh Mom. But we can tell you it gets even worse in a sequel, The Secret of Dumbledore. If you care, watch where you can't. There are not a lot of nice things to say about where Kevin Space is with his career and his reputation. There it is. But it does make easier to talk about a bad movie. It's done. Paid. Forward is one of those Army human interest movie that came off better when done in 52 minutes for an after-school special back Indians. Its premises is simple. We kind to each other, this is fine, but we have to have a special young man and his special teacher, and he said, special mother teach it at us, via sad scene where we are just not convinced of his ingoodness of the human spirit. The ending is subject to Joel, any architect of his proper new dressment parable, aboard sharing, gets abruptly snagged by a bully and dies. The town wears a body, unfairness of Fidel, and promises a scary on his idea. Yes, it's that bad. It's even more manipulative. And that is a movie equivalent of the real-life robot that was beaten into a grab. It's an accidental example of Black Committee, and it hits even worse its modern term. We know how just now many of us would not vote for a better price group of his JEO himself was drawing. If you are still wearing your orange giant head, said John Firefly fans, is not yet sensual as a shaky dog of a man, a real sort of the art fisherman hunting a trophy fish. His name is, though we are not making that up. He is eventually robbed into drama as his ex-wife re-enter the picture to beg him to save her and Patrick from the abusive new man in their lives. None of that matter because this is all some so terrible drawn ripe, where their sneaker is just an NPC in cyberpace designed by Patrick to replace his father, a real man who died in wartime. This is ridiculous to write. Neil can't do anything in his real fishing state of existence to change reality, but apparently has enough sentence to figure out he is an NPC and that he should go kill this doer anywhere because said so. Meanwhile, in real life, Patrick kill his stepfather and wipe him his own happy ending with another new computer game. You just know this kid would be into the crypto and had a phase where you could invest in he could BDM the hog girl who could go on. Bad as mad range. Horror movies are one of those annoying things that existed, and you have to just deal with it like Mo in Summer or Crunchy League Crystal, forming in your band, and J it less than great when those bad races take real-world issue on with them in ugly or manage to fumble a lot of bag that needs some reasonable handing. Like the way it's demonizing adopted ears and making her a rare disease into a joke. It's a bad, real zone. One J road Sherling would not have cut because Tally China already did. Most of his BR with Punching Dawn on Anywhere is quickly adopted because this nice white family wasn't happy enough with 2 kids and could not get for the generally tragic experiences of Silver. Nobody does their due diligence until after Easter has nearly killed everyone twice and creepily tried to seduce that at least once. At this point, some doctor overseas explained that a kid is actually a serial killer in her 30s, as actually Lena has. Hollywood mild typhoid disorder somehow gives this lady child big and lady for life. That's not how any of this work, and anyone with a real thyroid disorder should be allowed to throw unsalted popcorn at this movie at every opportunity. It's well known by now that Robert Patterson puts enough effort into his craft to make any performances of his watchable, even if can't redeem the movie, in questions. So when we say, remember me, it's a chief short of a movie. Asmau sober with a manipulative of America's collective memory that you want to behold personally responsible for this thing. It's no reflection on patent. Son, why blame if you have somehow avoided knowledge of Remember Me? It's a very basic teenager romance drama with a lot of conlative baggage. All of it goes up in smoke when a home short reveals that trailer that work in the World Trade Center. and day he finally visit Pop's high-rise office is indeed on September 1101, the game's unlikehood of his movies. That dialers remain, are recovered, identified, and built in the family plot. At least 40% of 9 by 11 victim remain unidentified, while scientists are continue to do that to reunite that with their family. Not only is this movie another cheap web, but it's also a little tricky. The RI is a new filming on Netflix on January 16th and directed by Dahan. The film stars Matt German, Ben Affleck, Damon Kay, and Sasha Kelly. The casting sells the film. Lately, I have heard a lot of people claim that the air of the ill is capturing a movie on this trend of the face. I don't buy that here. Anyone who sees this cast will be echo-lined, so between that in lineup and its lack of major competition this weekend, it's almost guaranteed to be a hit. Said it does not mean the movie's itself any good. Between the January release and it little itself, I did not have high expectation for the film. Still, I was genuinely looking forward to it because of how much I like the cast. German and Affleck reuniting felt promising, as if they were truly invested in something substantial. The sporting cars only hatched that excitement with standard like Seven Yeun and Jana Taylor. When you hear about a lineup like this coming together, it's hard not to be introduced. Potential was there, but it's ultimately weighed down by a messy direction action, absurd storytelling, and an unappealing color palette and visual style. The first half of the film is actually not that bad. It throws you into the story during its interesting point that allows you to quickly understand the characters and the story. It was not great. The dialogue was definitely dated and messy, but I couldn't help but see more comparison to Carnahan's earliest film. Smokiness is a film I loved. Once the story centers around his house, I really enjoyed the build-up. Unfortunately, when when the film became very messy, developed from stories by Joey Carnahan and Michael Makar, the screenplay itself was written entirely by Carnahan. I am not sure what happened along the way, but at one point Kahan was reportedly to remake The Red, and you can see dresses of their influences almost as a soon become a substitute for that project. The core issue is that Gahan likely should have served as writer on director, but not board, where some of the plot wishes do land. The longer the films goes on, the more impossible to become. It feels like the project needed another creative voice to rein the story in, because it's a lot of unrealized potential that could have made his a much stronger film. I can understand why a cast like this are signed out with D and Affleck attached as producer. Is it to be imagined much of the sporting cast committing without even seeing full the script. The worst case outcome is that the film at least helped the sporting actor build relationship that may allowed him to flourish later in their career. Looking at Carnahan's filmography does not exactly have a repetition for elevating performances. Even his earlier projects were notably stronger. The first half of the film is arguably its best, largely because it subverted expectation. Once the story began to unravel in the second half, however, it became clear the film believed it's far smarter than its actual is, resulting in performances that feel exaggerated and loved it up. The film adopted a visual style that's initially interesting, but sadly by it, the washed-out live blue color palette is especially unappealing, dissembling the kind of look that would be mode in stare like the studio. The camera work is frequently shaky and keep the action as a distance, revealing any real sense of immersion. By the end, the visual effects are outright poor, relaying heavily on CJ inside our practical location, with result that barely look finished. Hopefully, Damon's upcoming work on the ODC will serve as a reminder of how effective strong visual storytelling can actually be. Most of the action is held back for the second Uncharted finally arrives. I expected something closer to the chic energy of smoking incesses. Instead, it's underwhelming and short-lived. By the time the film reaches its subject, it becomes creating on its twisties to compensate for the lackluster direction action. Even with all the gunfire, the film offered nothing new in terms of set pieces or spectralism we have seen covered countless times before. Overall drive is the ultimately disappointing because of how much potential iterate on its twisties, to the point that they undermine the film's believability. The visual presentation is offing from the color palette to the overline on CGI in place of practical location, and reaction offer little of note. If you are a fan of the cast, it may still be worth a watch at best. Orsme is right for what it bit is likely to be quickly forgotten. On a prediction of side of things, Netflix is kicking off the new year rather modest TV release of the R.I.A. Robber by the Robeers, our call drama inspired by Duvall, the film directed by an unreal Joey Carnahan feature and promotive praying of Mary German and Ben Affleck as Yeun their scopes being up a task force, colloquially called D&J. If the icon seems a only knows, you might have a good enough sniffer to join this unit, as it won't be the only unknown you find, and it won't be the only time, says it's about Bigger Gene of the target, that is breaming the wishes of mysterious and conflict that compromises any detective. Janet, a well-dressed cop, populated with some disposable actor, some of whom are up to task of actually being in movie. You have Greaser's veteran cop in German, then Damon, who might not be on this trait, and Narrow D&D, who also happen to have a tragic backstory. You have your intricacy revile and disunity kitty among department. You have all the ingredients of perfectly suitable cop drama that actually is a wide more digestible than other. You can largely thank Joy Carnahan for the film series of viewing. The man has been around 40, had a bite of a speed spike, in notable, in somewhere in the likes of N, smoking the gray and sort of the air, and then promptly went back. And the man has Stollis, is multiple fifth film, he make green and dark, is there for in and decay. Bombas and fun is there for smokiness, or yet a review cut of tone and style, and it mostly work. Much of the film surprisingly play like a motor movie. Brad is ever on the doorstep of a sage house the TNT has decided to raid up a mysterious dip. His only rise when he ray a sum of money that realized changes instant and understanding of a situation. You even have a play on the inability of own will killer is taking your protagonist. Carnahan navigate a lot of movies your part, and some despite element. There is an office space kind of opening to the movie with an FA version of the two boss conducting interview of the TNT unit. Here we immediately get to see Affleck's scatter simmer, and while in contest with the demons, more reserved, one, you go to your gout and bad cop. Only they are all bad cop. But which is a bad of the bad cop? It's a simple enjoyment seeing the two veterans both in the context of the movie and her real-life career circling one another, and the movie thankfully does not smith with all tension and build reaching its nails. And we move into our final act, which plays more like an Ocean's Elagorm for Kahan. To be fair, are pretty well brunchy to get us here, and Kahan, like Distresses and Run and Revelation. Even something like Narc, which plays a Jan, is a trait. And greedy styles that I reveal to be reconciles perception here, even job. We can enjoy or find satisfaction in trying things up. It feels to feel lesser than the dynamic of being stuffed in a ramshackle house, fearing the non-body motivation or fun in the do of two. Act but get a sloppy in the climax. It does. Not exactly a movie, but he does his Carnahan mingling east, don't albeit less effectively than when he's related to. Single movie overall, if you want a buy, that remain a no, above so. Dreaming the Azable, you want something more than a cop drama. You might need your abandon. Sober by this point, you want some affirmation of the woman. Affleck major things. Get twisty with some allusion to a shared level that I'm sure can in no way to interrupt it with the way I'm interrupting things. I don't think you will find a cleaner image that if parting short, it would be easy to dismiss your rap as a genery. So dreaming action trailer if it did not come with his kind of dispar power of Carnahan cops. And Crimeburg Carl by artist created and by Let Me Mine. And when I play, feels like something designed to make noise, something 12 drop on Netflix's. And the movie mostly deliver that, what implies sometime better than you would expect. Delay, please left in dance humor, Miami Dad. Practical chim into a horse and find a cure. Gee, that turn on the night into a beer cooker. The cash is a native money itself is what money does wrong. Jemier does not car it right away. He controls information, and teams are looking at each other like stranger. Kahan understand how to make a confident situation fail. Child, and if plays with a real pro-cure momentum, a lot of way it works. In the casting, Damon is good in a role that plays clarity. Engage as a smart and capable, but also potentially compromised. But keep the tensions alive even when you can. Still the movie stinging toward familiar. J. Affleck is as solid as the other half. A friendship dynamic and best scene are the ones that let her history to the heavy lifting without over-explaining it. Stephen Yeun and China Taylor are both welcome prisons, and he resembles text even when the script is being a little too blunt about it has it. The downside is that he writes still has the Netflix's relievably watchable more and is generally surprising. Kahan keep it moving and his side faces have white, but the BL mechanics can feel obvious and self-referential. I ended up liking the right motion I expected to, and less than I wanted to. It is better than a lot of recent action thriller Comfort Blood and has enough to atmosphere and mistrust to keep you locked in. Scanfire Cornet is dedicated to the delivering inside film criticism, char respected and comprehensive ringing that celebrate the art of cinema in all its form. M. Diamonds and Banner Flag are great as you would imagine. J Dynamics has always been one that electrifies the green and pulls view in. This time around, it is no different, and it adds Diamond is in charge, and despite he and Affleck's character being extremely close in the film, there is that tensions between them surrounding who is leading the way. Maybe I am just thinking God was a long-time fan out there, but if you enjoyed watching their banger, argument, laughter, and tension again, there are plenty of other name and faces you will recognize in Derrip. Simon Yeun and Sean Teller are two of the Detective Vend miscast. He does play his part well in certain actor film despite being in the group. Cher had only a minimal sporting role, and Jidna, however, you can't help but acknowledge her presence when on screen as expected for the Golden Globe winner for the performances in One Battle After Another. Carr played his part as the Agent 12, also a minimal role, but one is key. Go in the film, geeking over it. Again, I love Scott, again. And seeing him play a role in a film where he is not just Ron House kicking people like a low-budget Jean-Claudian doing is outrage. I have seen some people complaining already about the basing of the rape, saying that is too slow at time or a slow burn that never falls leg. I don't think I could disagree more. I really enjoy the pacing of this film and did not find the show at all from the jump. It's a trainee for turned out to be a very well-made cop thriller by a lot of aggressions and misdirection. I think the pacing benefited this film because it's not just a straight-up non-stop action movie. This one make you think, especially when it led of the G's. There are multiple parts of the secret that match the pacing well. When the action hits, it hits hard, but when the smoke clear and the guns get rolled outed, that's when the questions came to mind. It will generally make you second-guess yourself when you think you have it figured out. I am a Joy Kahan apologist and believe that he is an undervalued and underappreciated actor, can know what is the trend are, and he puts them on display here with the shaky camera to match the gunplay low-lighting sanction that is full board when necessary. He just understand those elements. D is not great by and mean, by hell of a lot of fun. If you need to sit down and watch an enjoyable film that will make you think, but not overthink, that is your wheelhouse. It almost a throwback to early 2000 action film in a sense, and One Dad, as mentioned, will keep you guessing manga also. Plus, you get to see 2G back together again in Matt German and Ben Affleck, and your launch should get G-Flip on Eric's Ward. It has been nearly 30 years since childhood friend Matt German and Ben Affleck collaborated to write a screenplay for Good Will Hunting. The film would go on to be a box office smash, grossing over $225 million, even more. The two buddies from Cambridge would win Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. Soon after, both Damon and Affleck were capsulized into full leading man status. Yet, despite their individual sources, their friendship remains strong to this. Diamond and Affle share this together again in their Flesping Asian return and directed by Joy Karna. While they said firmly as a fused lid, Kahanes them, video comparing sporting cast that includes Tion. They send Golden Globe winner to Teller. The ride tells a great kiddie a street-level crime story set in Miami. It began with the violent murder of Captain Jackie Zales, the leader of the police department tactical gym with a night square still stealing from Jackie's dad. DIA began an internal affair investigation to say every murder was pulled off by someone within the department. Meanwhile, Lieutenant John Jemeri promoted to Lomed later, but his job won't be easy with the division falling apart and moral at rock bottom. After receiving a Crime Stopper, he up identifying a stash host belonging to the cartel, then wound up his First Lady and the solution team of detective. They consist of his best friend and long-term cop detective, Sergeant J.D. Bryan, Detective Newman Website, and Detective Lolo Lesser. The team arrives at the house which reside at the end of Quiet with his own set and pieces in place. Carnahan Thing then begins tightening the Saku. The team is met at door by a young woman named Desi who claimed it folk house belonged to her grandmother, but inside tells a much different story. While searching her the rooms, they discover 15 bookers filled with cartel cash hidden in the wall of an attic. The team expected the RI to be from $150 to $300 million, but they quickly realizes they are sitting on an estimate $20 million procedures that they can't money at the side of Caesar. But there's much money come with an extra layer of danger, which they soon learned after mysterious phone call gives them $30 million to leave or else. Carnahan dropped his seam in a pressure cooker as a detective scamble to figure out obvious other motivation in play, as the external thread mode is internal fractures that drive the suspense. The real tension kicks in once a team member begin losing the trust in each other, and as trust in Erod, loyalty shift and Peronia set in, who's dirty, who's clean? Kahan masterfully keep us guessing as he digs deep into the corruption. And the film mystery is a key reason. It works so well, Kahan plants of suspicion everywhere without ever tapping his hand, and whenever we think we have things figured out, he proved to be one step ahead of us. At the same time, he and Joan Mugus, as Peros, use a camera to give the world a greater and whistle to texture. DB Zoe Kahan, best since The Grill, and is a killer start of the year for Netflix's. Inspired by a true event, the story and storytelling gemly opening scene to the closing credit. The conscious various of F-bombs dumb things don't abide, but otherwise the script is so razor sharp, giving the intensely focused car some rich material to work with. Of course, it have to have actor working aside comfort level as Damon, and Affleck though to have a natural chemistry that comes to on-screen. And as one of many reasons, this entailing reaction trailer with such forces that we had to a degree that suggested it could be more than the visual January kinematics. Look, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon reunited on the big screen for the first time since 2023 in a police action thriller directed and written by Joey Carnahan. Arguably the best swims after extensive career revolved around action thriller Police Roma, the departure for German, the tone for Reflect, and Narc for Carnahan. So tracking the JR together seemed like a winning strategy. The eye open with the Miami police captain, Jackie will getting gunned on by two smacks, as who clearly know her warehouse then gets a textbook, a house with the big stitch to deceased a harmed to be respawn the house in the center of a sack that seems to quiet a young woman. They see Sasha respond and allowed him to search the house. Upon searching they find for more than a few $100,000 hidden in property. This rape is indeed several million. Naturally does also make everyone on it a little antsy, especially as then start acting suspicious and not following a protocol. Cinematographer Jonami Asparos does add a tremendous stop of reconveying the sense of shadow, sadness of the dress. Russ with the lightning character we will in the out of shadow, or are battered in the ambient green and red light, that also benefit from its stellar cast. It's no stock. Their Diamond and Apple play are feeded so well, they bring an air to dance and shady, like they have been seen and alone on it all. As I done start to pray, Affleck and German bring an additional error of disparition and intensity. While they probably could have kept the RI entertaining on her own, the rest assembles more than Psych provides a likable, charismatic round, while Sant offers a low-key, confident Lolo. The play officer, well, it feels like Arahan could explore their dynamic in prequel or sequel. Yeun has been a rising star for years, but this performance seemed like one that should open up more opportunity. Likewise shows solid versatility with her performances that have clock hour but never feels long. Both the good guys and the bad guys work for the Miami-Dade Police Department in a drip visual good, Will Hunting, Bird Dog, Dress, No One, He Is, a movie that's capacious, better than most Netflix original, and frankly, that in line with a couple films the boys made for Bro this century, namely The Reported, and The Tone that I Belong on the big screen, the fact it can be seen. They were underscore for warning that a streamer is not really interested in critical, whatever it might claim, in order to acquire Warners. Columbian Scal are doing business in South Florida, but they are hardly in the Wallace Awards in N. Director Joey Carnahan, latest authority, questioning thriller. Say Interview is most entirely internal as the two of Jamaica. With more than $20 million in elicited cash, I bravely fictionalized retailing of the department, Big Scissor Drip Open waterfront execution at a respected cap, turned Jackie's WS by a pair of mass gun from J. It accelerated into a cat and most terror a sum. The officer she trusted most laid. He seemed to a non-secrete house at the end of a sleepy suburb, when a young Colombian's woman, Sasha, opened the door fairly confident that it had come to the right place. Sure enough, the newly reconverted Actic has a hidden room where barrel upon barrel of $100 billion bills are neatly starched by a local police procedure. When Florida copes any quantity of cash, they are required to count the money on site. In this case, that makes humor had seemed the sitting drug for anyone else with a design on chair score. Carnahan Salk introduces early the idea that Shiki was most likely killed by corrupt cop with Dan the in-charge scenario. A team of 5 help of day a treat, where the cartel appear to control every house in close circle mystery that had clearly cost a lot of money, and yet almost how the film unfold in a single location, Darren John home, Desi inherited from, or Abula. It is still delighted out when Dummer Keo entered the house. Carnahan and J.P. Jonami daily film like they are making Ho adopting the same slick, certainly almost looked like a man brought to his modern-day crime classic, and also watching the ultra-wide aspect ratio. The Florida sun is nowhere to be seen, as gray skies make Exertes feel acro, oppressive, and dangerous. Things are even more under light inside house, and is not long before night falls, and everywhere is moving under clock of darkness further obscured by a fine mist. The is palpable as a high-stack rocker game as we makes the faces of nearly half the cast that goes for German Affleck and co-star Kyle Candler. At least when guns go off, they spark bright like winging G's, while sit light glow piercing the groom visual that collectively reinforce the film. Cinematic ambition much has already been said about how the rape defies Netflix's free second rule for distracted viewership, where the plot must be restated multiple times for dividing the attention notices, but even those who give the right their full attention may find it here to explain all the twist and double crosses. Carnahan come into his gripping to our thriller, which is presumably why Netflix if a publish article in the primarily suspect and Jummer and his brilliant partner detective asset, J.D. Barron, as well as follow Officer R.O. Sear and bad side Diana Taylor. Let's stop for a minute and check in that cost. It's only January, and Ephesus had already said, "Boring kitty." Yeun to come to ambling, but we share complexity of the plot with a deal with the cur in a closer who was shooting of the house. Why does not humor try to arrest anyone from the jail? And the intricate way Carnahan assembled the puzzle. The app is easily worth a second viewing. Having done so myself, I can attest that it's even more satisfying on closer inspection. Editor K is constantly cutting between the faces of Tumor Team, showing each of their reaction to the unplanned setback. And once you know what everyone's motive are, the performances prove even more satisfying, as do a couple of corny shadows sent to keep us guessing. According to a conversation, Carnahan sets in this garbage. The cops in the right make roughly $18,000 a year, risking their life to recover money and from ceiling rug and other serious crime. At one point, we hold up a modest stack of Bill and Wonder's blood, how just that amount might change her life. Imagine that 20 million good joke was made for nearly for a gem. That's some, and it's hard to make sense of Netflix's accounting. The money clearly went to go good use, unless you want a lossy epilogue set in Florida's fake. As looking, surely they could have found a few more bucks.